everyone. Welcome back to the Heather Life. I am Heather, and today we are going to be doing just a recap of everything that I read during the month of January. As usual, I am doing a reading challenge with some friends online. So, I've got that going for me. And I'm also on a personal mission, since I am a Formula One fan, to read as many F1 related romances as I can possibly find. So, you're going to get a mix of both of those unless you would like me to do the F1 romance as a separate series, in which case, why don't you let me know down in the comments below. While you are checking all of the description and all of that, then make sure that you are following me on Fable or on Storygraph or on Blue Sky because I do update as I finish each book. So you can get all of this information or you can wait for the monthly recap. It is totally up to you. But with that being said, let's get started with what I read in the month of January. First, we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Now, this is the story of an author who a fellow author dies and she steals her manuscript so that she can publish it as her own. And just all of the turmoil that she goes through in order to keep the lie going. And she ends up finding herself both figuratively and literally haunted by the choices that she has made. This is a fantastic satire of the writing industry and publishing industry. It was compelling. You will find yourself absolutely hating the main character by the end of it. So I gave this one a 5-star rating. Next up is Missing Pieces. This is by 4 various authors. So you have 4 little cozy mysteries. They all happen to be murder mysteries, and the reason it's called Missing Pieces is because all of the stories revolve around jigsaw puzzles. This is something that was, I do like a cozy mystery, but this one was really not my cup of tea. I am obviously not the intended audience for this. I think this was written for more of a Christian fiction audience, which is not something that I typically read. Not a huge fan of it. This may be more your thing if you are into Christian fiction. Since I am not the audience for it, I only gave this one a 2.75. Notes from My Captivity by Kathy Parks. This is one that I saw on a recommended list, and so I decided to check it out. Actually, the book prompt that I had to read was something about the wilderness or rugged living. And this is the story of a girl who goes out in search of a folk story along with her stepfather. Pretty much, she ends up through a series of events becoming the sole survivor of this expedition, stranded in the wilderness when all of a sudden she's faced with what she came to find. It's about survival. There's a love story in there. It's very interesting. Now, this is listed as a YA book, but uh, be forewarned if you were going to recommend this for your teens that there's a lot more language in this book. There's a whole lot of F bombs. So, if you're not big on letting your kids read something that's heavy on language, then you might want to skip this one. But overall, I found the book really interesting. It was fun to read, it was emotional at the end. So, I gave this one a 4.5. Next, we start the first of our F1 romances, and we're starting with Crash Into Me by Darcy St. John. Crash Into Me talks about our main character, Mia, who has been away from the world of racing, used to be a very good racer, ended up leaving it, and gets pulled back into the life after the death of her father, and he leaves her the racing team. It is all under her control now. She has a twin brother who's kind of an a-hole and is one of the drivers for the team. The other driver for the team is an ex-boyfriend. A lot that she's dealing with in dealing with grief and rekindling her feelings for that driver, trying to repair her relationship with her brother, trying to find her love for driving again. It's kind of all over the place. So this one's an interesting story. I ended up giving this a 3.75, and on the spiciness meter, I gave this one a 3 out of 5. And that there's a little bit of open door romance in there, but not overboard. Next on the F1 romance list, we have the second book, and that is Racing Heart by Darcy St. John. And this one, all of the events of the first book have been put aside. We are now going to follow Mia's brother. This is kind of his redemption story and his love story. And they completely changed the character from the first book. It's I don't know. It just wasn't it didn't quite grab me the way that it was. It was a great love story, but as far as following the same character, it just wasn't quite the same. And I know that they were trying to give him a redemption arc. It didn't quite do it for me, but this was still an enjoyable book. So I gave this one a 3.5 stars, and on the spiciness rating, another 3 out of 5. The Traitor's Ruin by Aaron Beatty. Now, this is a sequel to The Traitor's Kiss, which was a YA book that I read last year and kind of really liked the main character and the intrigue, how she kind of unwittingly becomes a spy. It was really, really good. This book, however, was just not a successful follow up. By the time you get into this book, I feel like the main characters were just insufferable. A lot of stubbornness going on both sides to the point that it didn't really advance the plot. And the things that did advance the plot happened to rely a whole lot on just coincidence or dumb luck. I don't know. I just was not feeling this one. Ended up, giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. Couldn't really hold my attention all that well. Next up is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Now, if you've read any Emily Henry romance novels, then you know exactly what you're getting into. You're going to have your quirky characters. You're going to have a really weird situation that they're in. You're going to have a lot of fun dialogue, a lot of romantic banter. And then, of course, you're going to have your spicy romance scenes. So, Funny Story does not disappoint. It is right in line with everything else that Emily Henry has written. And I found this one really fun. You start out with weird circumstances in that the main character's fiance goes back to an ex girlfriend. And so she ends up sharing an apartment with the former boyfriend of said ex girlfriend. And they start to become involved. She works as a librarian. She has a bestie that works there with her. She learns how to kind of open herself up to having more friends, to kind of realizing herself as an actual person and what she wants out of life. So, it's really a story about growth and acceptance, and then of course you have the cute romantic banter going on as well. So I really enjoyed reading this one. I absolutely flew through it. I was sitting and reading while I was on a trip, so I was sitting in the car reading and just tore through the entire thing. So this one got a 4.5 from me. Next up, Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. And this is the second book in the series after Legends and Lattes, which I read last year. He also has a third book that is out that I have not had the opportunity to read yet. So stay tuned because I'm sure that's going to be coming up this year. Bookshops and Bone Dust, I did not realize until well into the book that this is actually a prequel to Legends and Lattes. So you still have your main character, Viv, who is an orc. This is before she decided to retire from fighting. This is all in the D&D style universe, by the way. And she finds herself injured and in a seaside town and helps a very foul-mouthed ratkin who runs a bookshop. And it's just that there's magic, there's intrigue. It's kind of sold as a cozy type romance, but don't be mistaken by that. There are some high stakes for the different characters are in here. There are times where they are in mortal danger. There is a big bad boss fight at the end. I found this one really fun. I found the characters really fun. You just kind of have to lose yourself in that fantasy world. So this one got 5 stars for me. Next up is Steampunk, an anthology of fantastically rich and strange stories. This is a bunch of steampunk themed short stories written by well known YA authors. Cory Doctorow's in there, Holly Black is in there, Libby Bray is in there. There's a lot of different authors. And the stories, once you have an anthology, it's going to be kind of hit or miss. You're going to connect to some stories better than you do with the others, but they all have that steampunk vibe. They all take place in different types of steampunk universes. I found it kind of fun. You have everything going from love stories to um, you have bandits, you have ghost stories. There's lots of different things that are covered in here. So you're probably going to find at least one thing in there that you're really going to like. I found this one really fun. It took me a little bit to get through just because some of the stories I was like, I'm not really connecting, but I definitely want to finish reading it. But this is one that I would recommend, especially for young adults. So this one got a 4 out of 5 from me. A Rookie Romance by M.B. Feeney, another one in the F1 romance series. Now, this one is about a rookie F1 driver who falls for a girl who is running a fan account on Instagram. Now, this one kind of reads like a fanfic. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's just kind of the vibe that I got from reading it. And like I said, not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're looking for like some really deep literature, this is not it. Obviously, this is going to be something that is junk food for your brain, and I love doing that every once in a while. So, um, this one got a 3.5 from me, and on the spiciness rating, this one gets a 5 out of 5 stars. It is very, very it's there. Broadway Butterfly by Sarah DeVello. This is based off of a true story of the murder of Dot King that happened in the 1920s, but it's told through different perspectives. It's told through the perspective of the maid that worked for her, through a female crime reporter who was covering the case, through the detective who was investigating the case, and through a wife whose husband was tangentially involved in the case and was a suspect for quite some time. It's very well researched. It definitely keeps you guessing, keeps you moving. And it has a little bit of a heartbreaking ending. And there's a lot to be said in there about how true crime is approached and how various people will not ever see some type of justice, and about how there can be different types of justice for the rich versus the poor. There's a lot to unpack there. So this is definitely one that I would recommend, 5 out of 5 stars. The Keeper of Lost Art by Laura Morelli. This is the story of a girl who is going to live with family in Tuscany. This is during World War II. So this is as Italy was just becoming involved in World War II. She ends up having a mother who disappears in the middle of the fighting. She has a father who she has not seen since she was very, very young. So she's living with an aunt and uncle and some cousins, and just watching how the world around her, even in her small town, changes as World War II kind of goes on. And since they are staying in this rather large estate, taking care of it for someone, they are approached by the Italians to take care of some priceless works of art and store them in their house, and just how that changes things for her. How that's the one thing that keeps her going, gives her hope. This is a story about the people that they take in, the community that they form. About it's about love, it's about friendship, and it's about finding beauty even in the darkest of times. So this one was a wonderful story, very well researched. 4.75 out of 5 stars. Next up is Bloodstream by Emily Carter, and this is another F1 romance. This is the first of 3 books that she has available right now, with a 4th book that is coming out later this year. That I know it's coming out in the UK, so I'm hoping at some point I can get a copy of it here, because I really want to keep up with the rest of this series because it's fun. This is the story of Faith, who becomes a social media manager for a team, and so it's her job to kind of share the drivers with the internet. And she's got one driver on the team who is just hard to reach. And so, of course, they're going to start a romance eventually. He does have a big secret in his life that he's trying to keep from her and from everyone else. Um, but you see her as their relationship goes back and forth between love and hate. You can see her as she starts to form relationships with other people on the social media team, which are going to come into play in the other books, as well as the other drivers that are on the team, how they start to kind of form their own family. And it's just fun. Again, this is not something that's really deep, but there is really good character development in these books. So definitely stick around while I read the rest of these. So this one got a 4 out of 5. Next is Emily Eternal by M.G. Wheaton. So in this book, the world is ending because the sun is about to go out. It will expand and burn up the earth and then retract and burn out completely. And so mankind is doomed. But the geniuses at MIT have put together what is called an artificial consciousness. She's developed to help people process trauma. So she kind of works in a psychiatric field. But her name is Emily, and they believe that she may be the key to retaining the consciousness of mankind, and therefore allowing the human race to exist even after the destruction of the earth. And then she finds herself pursued by government agents. So we had to figure out, what do these people want? How will she escape? And she also manages to become just human enough to develop relationships. So she finds a very good friendship. She develops a love relationship. So it's a really good book about what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have humanity? And what is our over reliance on technology going to do to us? So it's a real think piece. It's sci-fi, but it's not too technical. So this is definitely something that you could read fairly easily. 3.75 stars. Chasing Daisy by Paige Toon, yet another one of the F1 romance series. This is about Daisy, who works in catering for an F1 team, and she starts to fall head over heels for one of the drivers. And at the same time, it seems that another one of the drivers has fallen for her. So this is a story about friendship and about what relationships are. What is the difference between infatuation and love? Is there a difference? How do you deal with grief when it comes into your life? When heavy grief tends to starts to derail everything that you've been working for. So it's a story really about relationships. I found it personally kind of hard to connect to a lot of the characters. I don't know, I didn't feel connected to them for a really long time. It really took me a while to kind of get into the book. I got into the actual plot of the book, but it felt hard to connect to the characters. So it took me a little bit. That's why it knocked it back a star to only 4 stars out of 5. Mind Game by Anthony Horowitz. Last year I read The Turn of the Knife by Anthony Horowitz. He is a thriller writer, if you're not familiar with him. But in the course of that book, he talks about a play that he had written called Mind Game. I got the actual script to Mind Game, which has been performed on the West End and in several other different places. So I had to approach it since I read a lot of scripts. I looked at it from a director standpoint. I looked at it from an actor standpoint. From a director standpoint, I think this would be really interesting to stage. From an actor standpoint, it's kind of all over the place. So you would really have to do a lot of character work in order to really make this thing come across. This is an example of something where I think the idea of it comes across a lot better than the execution of it. But overall, it's something that I would not mind staging sometime. It only takes 3 actors, but you do have to have a pretty good tech crew, and you really have to trust that your audience is going to go all in and suspend their disbelief. So, 3 out of 5 stars. And finally, Crash Test by Amy James. This is one that was recommended to me by several other people as part of my F1 romance series. And this is about an F1 driver that falls in love with an F2 driver. They are both male, and their relationship threatens to be exposed to the general public when one of them is involved in a crash that ends with the death of another driver. And it's about heartbreak, it's about redemption, it's about secrets, it's about finding love, it's about how to follow your heart. And on top of that, you've got fast cars. So there's a little bit of something for everybody here. I really enjoyed reading this one. I do know that there is a novella that is actually using some of the same characters and the same settings. So I'm going to be reading that eventually. But really enjoyed reading this one, 4.5 stars. And there you go. Those are the books that I read over the course of January. So I'm already started on my February books. Again, if you would like to check me out on Blue Sky or Storygraph or Fable, then you can keep up with these as I'm going through them, or just wait for the monthly recap again. So I'm going to sign off for now. Why don't you let me know how many books you read in the month of January and what was your favorite one? Do you have any 5 star reads? Let me know down in the comments below. Until then, I will catch you guys next time. Take care.